Quick question, can you read a tape? Can you read a tape? Do you need the cheater tape? Like, I see some people have the, you know, where it's got the little fractions on there. How many of you actually know all the little subdivisions in a tape? You wanna know a little trick with a tape measure. If you wanna know half the distance of like a weird dimension, you can, let's just think of a weird dimension. 27 3/4. What's half of 27 3/4? Let me tell you. You get the tip, you bring it down here to 27 3/4, and right there in the half, 13 7/8. You can just find it that easily. 13 7/8, just like I said. You know how to do that? Probably not. Probably because someone never taught you how to do it. Maybe you do. I don't know, it's not that hard. But today's video is by request. I've had some people that saw my HX STOMP mini board. I did a video like over 2 years ago explaining how I use the HX STOMP with other pedals, how I put overdrives in front, how I put the reverb in the effects loop, and some people were like, yeah, I saw those videos, but I need more intentional video. I need you to show me exactly which cables to use, exactly where you're plugging them in, step by step. Show it to me, Jimmy, like I'm an 8-year-old. And I'm like, hey, I totally get it. I totally understand. So that's what we're gonna do now. I'm gonna show you how to use HX STOMP with some of these other delicious pedals. Let's do it. Throat coat. I've been a bit under the weather, but praise the Lord, I didn't have too bad of symptoms. Very manageable, and I'm recovering, but it's still in my, you know, affecting my voice. As a worship leader too, I always get stressed out and have anxiety when I lose my voice, because that's like the one thing I can rely on. If everyone cancels in planning center, no one shows up, I can usually just sing and we'll be fine. But when my voice is in jeopardy, it stresses me out. Anyways, the pedals we'll be working with today are the HX STOMP, this nice white one. Love the HX STOMP. We also have, we're gonna go into the HX STOMP with this Jet Pedals Lamb Overdrive. I love this thing, it's MIDI controlled. Yeah, presets, all the fun things. And then this right here, Jet Revelation, my favorite reverb of all time. If you don't know that, well, now you do. So the first thing I like to do is put my wet effects, usually just my reverb, because I love the delays. There's so many options of delays in the HX STOMP, but, and now reverbs as well, but I just love this reverb. And so if I had a reverb I really loved, if you do, and I do, it's this one, I would put this in the effects loop. And yeah, so how do you do that? The first thing you're gonna need to retain a stereo image, this is a stereo reverb, you will notice that on the side of the HX STOMP there is a send jack, but it's just one jack. This is a stereo send. It says stereo right there, which means you need a TRS cable to go in on this end, but then we're gonna come out and split. So this is a split Y cable, a TRS split Y, and it splits into two TS ends, and they will say tip and ring a lot of the times, usually on the other end. So we're gonna put the TRS in into the stereo send right there on the HX STOMP and go into the stereo wet reverb right here that we have, our wet effects, and then we come out stereo, and I'll show you that in just a second. But you might be thinking, Jimmy, why can't I just come out mono with a TS cable out of this and go into the front of the Revelation, let's say? Why can't I do that and then just have two patch cables go in? Won't that still leave stereo? Yes, it will. But if you have any like delays that are in stereo before this reverb, which a lot of people like their reverb after their delays, if you hook it up this way, anything that's stereo before this will get summed to mono, so you'll be losing that stereo effect. So if you have stereo effects before whatever you're putting into the effects loop, you need this special cable. So let's go ahead and hook it up. We're sending stereo signal. Now we'll just get two short patch cables to connect the two pedals together, leaving left and right of the Revelation and returning left and right into the HX STOMP. Now, another question you might have is, Jimmy, you put the tip and ring over here on the Revelation. Does it matter which one is tip, which one's ring? No, it doesn't. So, question answered. All right, so now our overdrive. I like to just run my overdrive straight into the front of the HX STOMP. The only reason that you might not want to is if you are using a compressor in the HX STOMP, you might not want your overdrive before your compressor. I didn't. I'll show some B-roll right now of my HX STOMP mini board over there. So I opted to get a mini compressor that I really love. Is the Becos Effects Comp IQ. I actually go into that first. That acts as my compressor. Then I go into my overdrive. Then I go straight into the HX STOMP. I'm using it just like a pedal board just running from my drives into my wet section into my amp. Except I can move my stereo effects loop around, and I'll demonstrate that here in just a minute. So then all we need to do is come out of our overdrive into the input of the HX Stomp. Now we need to power it up. Logston audio cable with a 2.5 tip for the HX Stomp. And we'll power these up with the regular tips. Boom, guitar cable. Just like that. We need to insert a stereo effects loop for this pedal to be in the effects loop. And you're like, Jimmy, this is a reverb going at the end of your chain, and yet you're taking up a stereo effects loop block. We only have 8 blocks. Why would you take up a block to put this in there? Can't you just put it at the end of your chain? Yes, you can. You can do that if you want. But I like to use the headphone out of my HX Stomp sometimes. One of the beauties of using this is being able to dial in my tone with my headphones, and I can't do that if I put my reverb after the headphone jack. I just won't be able to hear. I won't be able to dial it in. So I like to put it in there. Just act like it's a block. It's like any other effect. So the cool thing about it, it only takes up 1 block, hardly any DSP, and you can put as many pedals in that effects loop as you want. So yeah, I like doing it. So let's put it in there. So we need to add something. We're gonna go down to send and return, stereo, effects loop left and right. Boom, make sure the mix is 100%, and I like to make sure the trails are on. Now sometimes, I did wanna say, when you engage the effects loop, it feels to me like there's a volume loss sometimes. We'll test it here and see if it happens in this setup, but on my black mini board, it seems like there's a volume loss. And so the way I've overcome this is just to crank up the return until I dial it in. I usually just go ahead and crank it all the way to 6. Now, if that's too much, you can just dial it into taste. We'll see what it is today. But yeah, let's see how we can hear this. All right, clean tone without the effects loop. Turn it on. To me, it sounds pretty even, but I'm telling you, on my other pedal board, it's not. I feel like there's a loss. Maybe it's the cabling, I don't know. So just be aware of that. If you need more or less volume, that's what these do. Now, if I crank it, let's just see how much it actually affects. Yeah, that gave me a little boost. So it doesn't seem like it needs it with this rig. Now let's turn this on and hear how beautiful it sounds. Turn it off first. All right, so is there a sound change when we move the block around? Well, let's press action and just move it. Let's move it right before the amp. We'll turn it on. Here's our tone. It sounds really good. You may notice, hey, that sounds really good, but we lost our stereo image because we put all this double stereo effects loop before a mono block, our amp and cab. That's not good. But the reason I'm going to try this is because a lot of people, and I've seen people on like the Facebook forums and stuff say, hey, my effects loop is super noisy. I'm not hearing any noise when I move it there. Still sounds good. It's just mono. Let's move it again between the amp and cab. Still sounds good, super quiet, but if we move it after any mono blocks, then we get the stereo width. it seem like the effects loop just got louder when I turned it off? Does it seem like the effects loop was quieter? I think it's just that little bump. You do hear the toggle. Turn that off. Real thing. I mean, that sounds pretty good. If you didn't know, I'm using my Blues Junior Tone Match preset actually right here. The tone matched IR along with the cab. I think it sounds fantastic. This thing also has some other circuits. Now I did want to say that the placement of the effects loop does change the tone. I noticed that when you put the effects loop after the amp and cab, it's not running through the model of the amp and cab, and so it has a lot more clarity, and you can really hear it on this shimmer setting. That's a lot of reverb, but show you. Now let's move it. You can immediately hear that the top end was rolled way off. And if you like that sound better, but you want the stereo effect, we can actually just make like a dual cab and place that before the dual cab, and we'll still have a stereo width. Let's do that together real quick. I don't know what we're gonna have to get rid of. Let's see. Let's set this down. We will clear that block. Clear that block. We will copy that block, and we will paste block and move it here. And now we're going to bring it down to path B. Okay. Now we'll go here. Let's split our signal all the way left, all the way right. We also need to bring this here. And we need to bring A all the way left. Haha! Canon with the 30-minute recording time limit just cut me off. But anyways, what I was doing was, you missed some of it, but I went and made sure that my split mixer, my mixer block was also panned left and right 100%. And then what I've done is I've moved my delay before my reverb, which is stereo, just to see if passing through our effects loop while it's on, even if our reverb's not on, just so we can kind of hear. It's a little easier to hear if that's stereo. Did we retain our stereo signal? And we did. And now our shimmer kind of has lost that top end, and maybe you like that better. Okay. It's good. Sounds good. I like it. Now, to talk about today's sponsor, I don't have one. This video is not sponsored, except it is by myself, Tone Match Presets. They're for sale right now at heyworshipleader.com. There are 5 different amps that I've tone matched. Most recently is the Dr. Z Maz 18. It sounds fantastic. The Blues Junior is what you heard today. Not that expensive of an amp, but I just love the way it sounds. It just sounds great. PV Classic 30, there's actually 2 tone match presets in that one if you want a little bonus. The Box AC15, the Princeton, 1975 Princeton. Yeah, go check them out. I'll link those down below. Like the video if you did. Subscribe because I have some giveaways coming up because I'm about to celebrate 3 years on YouTube. So I got a big stuff coming. You don't want to miss it. Did you subscribe yet? No? Go ahead.